Hey guys, I'd like to welcome you to the Kortex Media Podcast, where we navigate the fast-paced world of automotive and more. Here today, I have a very unique guest, Joshua Dominic from Dreamstar Lines. Joshua is an accomplished entrepreneur with over 13 years of experience spanning startups, finance, strategy, and logistics. A graduate from Columbia University with a degree in economics, he played a key role in business development for innovative companies like Dark Trace, Cloud Kitchens, and co-founded Falcon Funds. Having traveled over 20 countries, Joshua brings a global perspective to his work, driving forward transformative solutions in the travel industry. Joshua's vision for Dreamworks is shaped by his extensive background, including his service in the United States Air Force Reserve, where he specialized in transportation mobility and logistics. It's great to have you on, Josh. I'm super excited to get into this one.
Yeah, thanks. That was a really nice intro. Although for anyone listening, DreamWorks is a famous animation studio. We're Dreamstar Lines.
Oh, did I say Dreamworks?
That's okay. There's a lot of dream names out there.
There's a lot of dream names. Maybe I did say DreamWorks. Anyway, sorry, Dreamstar.
Okay.
So first, let's start talking about your background. Can you give the audience a little overview of kind of what you're doing before the start up of Dreamstar, and kind of move into what Dreamstar is, so the audience has an idea of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, sure. So previous to Dreamstar, I was working kind of in startups, and I knew that I wanted to do something else eventually, and I was kind of trying to find something like, what do I want to do? And hilariously, I was like, well, I've had this idea for like overnight sleeper train service in the United States ever since I traveled and backpacked through Europe. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. Like, why isn't this here? And after thinking about it for probably 10 years, I finally said, you know what? This will be my next thing. But I took an unusual approach because most people, they have an idea and like, I'm going to prove it. I actually took the total opposite approach, and I tried to prove that it could never work. So I put on like an investor cap, like an investor might, and said, oh, I'm going to go through methodically through each part of the business and just prove that like, hey, this is obviously not a good idea, instead of just looking for evidence that confirmed my desire. Oh, this should exist. But then you find out, oh, it turns out it's illegal. Cool. Like, you could figure that one out pretty quick. But maybe there's some industry dynamic, or there's a supplier you can't get, or there's some type of industry structure that just makes it, you can never get it. Like, let's say it's completely legal. This was a big one. It's completely legal, whatever, you can do it, that's fine. But then you need insurance. And then you talk to all the insurers and they're like, oh, we would never insure that. Well, it may be legal, but there's no way you're going to have a business without having insurance for this type of a thing. So
Definitely.
I basically started this by trying to prove that it would never work. And from there, things just kind of evolved. Yeah, over time. I guess go a million different directions, so I'll let you guide.
That is quite the start to a company, trying to prove that it wouldn't work. So what was the big inspiration behind it? Obviously, traveling many different countries helped tremendously to kind of push you in that direction, but what was the big inspiration, motivation behind it? Yeah,
so that was like pretty spot on. I'd say there's like three key things that turn this from like a interesting idea to like perhaps like really appreciating like why this could work. So the first one was I studied abroad in Spain years ago, and it turned out that after studying abroad, it was cheaper to be unemployed and travel through Europe than live in New York City. So instead of going back to New York, it was the summertime. I was between college semesters. So I just ended up traveling all over with a good friend of mine. And we got the rail pass, and we just took that all over. And so we took trains everywhere, some of which were, night train type accommodations. And I remember thinking like, wow, this was really convenient way to like get around, see all over. I mean, we went to a ton of countries, and we just used the rail pass. And I thought, this is great. And America is like awesome, but like we should totally steal this idea. Like, this is a really great deal.
Well, that's where you come in.
Yeah. So then, but like most people, this is where it's like funny, right? There's a whole cosmic joke here where I'm like, wow, this is a great idea. Someone should do that. I got to get back to my like schoolwork, and I did nothing with it. Until a couple years later, I had an opportunity. I had a bit of a career break and got to travel through Asia. And I ended up taking a night train from Bangkok to Chiang Mai, as well as another night train in Myanmar, which if anyone's ever been there, they probably understand why I'm laughing.
Never been.
Which was
been.
a very rustic experience, to say the least. So,
would you recommend going though?
Myanmar, absolutely. It was great.
Yeah?
Beautiful country.
Okay.
The people were super nice. There's a lot of... Go to Old Bagan. It's one of the most special places on earth. I would not recommend taking the night train there, however.
Okay.
And so this is totally so not relevant, but it's a good story, fun story. So essentially, we went to Old Bagan and we went and saw it, did sunset at the tower. Like everybody should do that. It's really, really beautiful. You get to look at all the pagodas. And but we were like, oh, we'll take the train from that region down to kind of the city before we fly out. And we went to the train station, and they refused to sell us a ticket. And we were like, what? Like, we want to buy a ticket. They're like, oh, you have to get here 7 days ahead of time. And we're like, we're on a visa for like 10 days. We can't do that. Like, It doesn't make any sense. And so they end up going back, and they were all very nice. But they're like, oh, we can't do it or whatever. And they're like, oh, well, you got to go to this office. So we go over there, and we go to the office, and we explain our situation. We're like, we're just backpacking through, there's not other backpackers, by the way. We're like really in the sticks. And so we talked to the office, and he's like, oh, let me help you guys out. And this was like literally out of like a comedy movie. He like walks out of a little office, and he starts yelling like 5 stories up, and there's this tiny window that couldn't have been more, maybe like a foot high and a foot wide. And then like he yells just upward in the abyss, and this window opens, and a guy sticks his head out, and they're just screaming at each other from probably like 2 or 3 stories away. And then he looks at us and he goes, we'll sell you a ticket, but no sleeper. You only have first class. And we're like, first class? How bad could it be? Yeah. He's like, it's air conditioned. It'll be fine. We're like, all right. And that mattered because it was super hot. It was like 100 plus degrees Fahrenheit.
That's
plus
warm.
100% humidity. So like you're just standing and you're like sweating in the shade. So we get this, we end up getting on there, and it turns out their air conditioning was just a ceiling fan.
Oh,
It was a
wow.
situation where like you'd open the bathroom and it's just a hole in the ground, like over the tracks as you're going. And so I look at my buddies and I was like, all right, we're in for an experience here. And like one of my buddies, he sits down and immediately his chair just breaks. He doesn't like have a chair anymore. And then the train was delayed. I ended up getting horrible food poisoning. It was just like, it was so bad that my buddies looked at me and they're like, mate, do we need to take you to a hospital? And I was like, no, I'm okay. But I ended up, by the time I got back to we had a hotel, I ended up sleeping like 9 hours. It was horrible.
Oh, wow.
All the people were wonderful. The experience was bad.
So don't take that one train.
Yeah, I mean, it might have gotten much better. Anyway, so that gave me kind of quite a diverse set of experiences on nice overnight trains versus not so nice overnight trains.
Definitely.
And then again, I was like, oh, this was a really convenient way to get around. The one where it wasn't a bad experience when we went from Myanmar to, from Bangkok to Chiang Mai. And then where it really became real to me is when I ended up taking a job for this startup, and I was traveling over the medium distance segment quite a bit. And I realized that flying sucks for medium distance travel because you end up spending like more time getting to the airport, getting through security and waiting for the plane than you do actually on the flight. So I was like, this kind of stinks, and you're losing half a day, and like you can do the same day turnaround, but it's a long day, and like some people like it, some people don't. And I was like, man, this would be way better if it was a night train where I'm not taking time out of my day to travel. Like I can, work a full day, come back, have dinner with my friends, or if you have a family, dinner with your family, and then get on the train at like 8, 9 o'clock at night, sleep comfortably all night, wake up in the morning refreshed, have a shower on the train, and then like step off, go have my full work day. And if I wanted to fly back for the medium distance, it's like, oh, boom, perfect. You fly back at the end of the day, and you're not losing any time or any sleep, and you're being much more effective. Or you take the night train back if you want. I don't care. But I just realized like, oh, this would be a way better way to do it. But again, at that point, I had a job. I was focused on that. So those are kind of the three incidents of like backpacking through Europe, backpacking through Asia, and then traveling a lot on the medium distance corridors in the United States, where I realized like, hey, why doesn't this exist? It exists other places, but not here. This doesn't make any sense.
No,
So those are kind
awesome.
of the three foundational experiences that gave me the perspective of, hey, there might be something here.
I think those are great experiences because we don't have much trains to begin with in America, in North America, I should say, because you're in America, I'm in Canada. But in North America, we don't have many trains to begin with. If you look at Asia, so to say, they have like that new bullet train that is super fast, and they seem to be expanding on their trains more than any other continent around the world. So
Yeah, they're investing heavily into rail, and Europe has a very mature rail infrastructure. Basically, in the 50s and 60s, they invested heavily into their rail infrastructure, and North America didn't.
no, we've kind of more focused on the automotive side of things, kind of pushing more towards that and airplanes. But a lot of people are, well, with you traveling, doing medium distance traveling, you don't really need to, go through customs. Like that's half a day itself. Getting to the
Oh, yeah.
airport early enough to get on the plane, go through customs, wait for your plane, then it gets delayed, and then you're waiting longer, and then it's just and no one's happy by the time they get on the plane, and it just makes a whole mess around. So the trains are a great idea, huge
I'll give you a
idea.
great example, like real world example on the route. So last year, my business partner and I flew up to talk to some investors about Dreamstar. They were interested in what we were doing. So we live in Southern California, and we flew up to meet them because our service doesn't exist yet. And we get to the airport. I think our flight was supposed to be at 8:30 or something like that. 8:30, I think. And so we get there. You get there 45 minutes ahead of time or whatever. And so we get there, I guess, a little bit before, might be 7:45 in the morning. Flight ends up getting delayed so that we don't take off till after 9. And then we land, and then after we hit bad traffic getting out of the city, we had a noon meeting, and we thought, we leave at 8:30, we should be okay, like plenty of time.
Yeah.
Once we landed, we ended up having to call them and say, hey, our flight was delayed, like we got to delay our meeting 30 minutes because we ended up being, late.
Yeah.
So despite doing everything right, it took us, over almost 4.5 hours to go from leaving our houses to getting to our meeting. And it was like, this is a huge time suck. And like, you can't really do a ton of productive work in that 4.5 hours. Like the flight itself is mostly going up and going down.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times you're like sitting here, talking in the airport, doing phone calls, maybe answering email. It's just not a great situation. It's a lot of just non-productive time.
For sure. No,
Whereas on a train, you just get on, you sit, you're like, boom, I'm set up. I can do whatever.
you can work away, you can do everything. That's one nice thing about that. Yeah, especially with planes, you can't work, you can't contact people, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
fine if
huge
you
for
want
a
to answer
train.
email or whatever, but like, you might not, whatever. And also, it depends on the room, right? Like, if my laptop's not super huge, but like, I'm still like T-Rexing it, like trying to type. It's insane. And I'm a average size guy. I can't imagine being like 6'4". You look pretty tall. How tall are you?
I'm 5'11", so I'm not a
Okay,
super
so
tall guy
you're
either.
Yeah, I would say you're about my size. I'm 5'10". So, but like my buddies who are like 6'2", 6'4", how are you going to get any work done? Your arm
Yeah.
is the length between the seats. Like, no chance.
Yeah, no, that's another big thing. Is at least you have your own with Dreamstar. You have your own comfortable area. You have your own bed. But I want to talk a little bit more about that later. How long have you guys been in the works of creating Dreamstar?
Well, it depends on how you measure it. So, like, the idea has been ruminating in my head. So I ended up meeting up with my business partner. I don't know if you're a particularly religious person, but this is probably the closest thing to what people commonly call a God moment. I read about somebody doing this idea that I'm now describing, Dreamstar. And it turns out the guy was like my neighbor. We lived 10 minutes down the street from each
No
other.
way.
And so I hit him up. I was like, hey man, like, I have the exact same idea. Like, let me help you. Like, let's work on this together. and we worked kind of closely for about a year, and it's just been great. And so that's Tom Eastman. We're we linked up on it,
Yeah.
and it's just been totally amazing to work together. We've got complementary skill sets. He's a great guy, and we've really taken this thing from kind of, hey, this is a cool idea on a spreadsheet, to like doing interviews and getting mentioned in the media, and really bringing this to life. So
That's
it's been
awesome.
super cool to see that happen.
That's super exciting. And
Yeah.
how soon are you planning to launch the first ride?
We want to be up. We want to be up and running before the Olympics. That's our
That's
goal.
exciting.
We think we can do it. There's some things that are out of our control around getting agreements in place and certain fundraising objectives. But if it's up to me, we will have, you know, some service operating history well before the LA Olympics.
That would be super exciting. And what's the first route going to take place? Like, where's the first route going to take place?
We're looking at between the Bay Area and Southern California. So, you go to from Fourth. Ideally, we'd love to go from Fourth and King in downtown San Francisco, and definitely from San Jose. There's a San Jose station, all the way to Los Angeles Union Station. We'd love to get all the way down to Orange County, but that will probably be our first extension. We're still figuring that out. It's quite complex when you get into like, oh, the scheduling, the routing, like, is everybody happy with this? So, but
Definitely.
between LA and the Bay Area is kind of our first, where we think we can first get up and running.
It'd be so perfect for the Olympics too. Like, that's like perfect timing, perfect time to
I
drop,
know.
launch. I'm
Especially
really
for all the people who are like coming to visit or going other places. So
definitely.
we think it'll be. I think LA has abandoned their car-free Olympics promise that they were going for, but yeah, it would be very, very cool if we can do that.
That'd be awesome.
Or
It'd be
when we do that.
perfect opportunity. Yeah, when you do it.
Yeah, when we do
Um,
that.
what's been the most rewarding or challenging part of leading Dreamstar so far?
So both, right? Nothing's more rewarding than beating challenges.
Definitely,
I
definitely.
think I think the most challenging part is opening people's minds to like what's possible. I know this can sound kind of weird, but very few people really understand how like rail works that are not in rail. And people who understand how rail works understand how it works today. So trying to say like, hey, we have this idea that works other places. We want to do it here. You know, there's a period of kind of like, it's like I do this when I learn a new idea. If I don't immediately get it, I'm like, let me think. I need to think this through. So while I've been thinking about this for years, and I've thought about, everything to Sunday, when I meet someone, sometimes I have to go, oh yeah, and I have to sit and go explain when we get into like the details part, right? The idea sounds awesome. Like that doesn't take any convincing. I can sleep instead of drive, I'm in. But in terms of like how that actually works and what operations look like, there's a process of, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that, and explain to people, we're not trying to steal like riders on other trains. We're trying to go after like a part of the market that we see as unserved.
Definitely. No, that's
So I think the biggest challenge has been explaining to people who don't understand trains, explaining to them both how it works, how the industry works, and that like the demand is totally here. So you, as an example, people are like, do people really take the train? Like, I don't know what it is, how it is where you are, but like most people don't realize there's a train here you can take. And usually I'll just say, look, Amtrak runs most of the inner city long distance routes in the United States, similar to like Via Rail in Canada. And I'll say, look, Amtrak hit record high ridership ever in their 50-year history last year. Like, demand is up. People want trains. People are tired of dealing with automobile infrastructure, dealing with cars, traffic jams, whatever it is, and they're tired of dealing with airports. Like, they squeeze you at every dollar. I often joke, and I'll say that, like, I'm obviously joking here, but like, I think air travel is a big psyop in testing to see how much people will pay to be tortured. Like,
pretty much
right?
though.
We're going to put a bunch of people, we're going to put them in a tight space. We're not going to feed them. We're going to remove some of the oxygen, and we're going to put them too close together. It's going to get tough for them to stand up on their own free will without having to ask other people. It's like, and that's not to poo-poo anyone. The people in the airline industry, they're working really hard to provide a good experience. But it's just the way the industry works today, and it's not a comfortable experience.
No,
And the medium distance segment especially.
definitely, yeah. Well, even the super long distance. You've been to Asia and Europe. You know exactly about it. So last year I went to Tanzania, and
Oh,
it
so
was
did I.
about. Did you actually?
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
I went to
Amazing
Kilimanjaro.
experience. We didn't
Yeah.
do Kilimanjaro, but we did the Serengeti, and went through Arusha, and and then we went to Zanzibar after as well.
Oh, so did I. Very cool.
It was
That's a small world.
Yeah,
That was
very
awesome.
small world. It's amazing
Yeah.
trip. If anyone
Yeah.
hasn't been to Tanzania, make sure you go because it's
I
unreal.
do. I totally agree. Very safe. Some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. The tour guide that we had, well, we had two nicest people
yeah,
ever. They like, if you needed help to find anything, they're there for you.
yeah.
But
I
I
think
want to do
that's
Kilimanjaro. That's one thing I do want to do.
I highly recommend it.
Definitely. But anyways, you've been on long flights, so you know how uncomfortable it is going on those super long flights. Too bad we can't change anything for that.
Well,
But
I know some people that are working on supersonic flight, and I'm really rooting for them.
supersonic flight. I
Yeah, like
might
the
need you to.
Concorde.
I
So
haven't
it
heard.
used to, so they used to have this service called the Concorde. It was supersonic flight between the UK and I think New York. It
Hmm.
went away. It was very expensive, but there's some people who are working on bringing it back so that you can do like flights much quicker.
Hmm.
We'll see. I hope they're successful.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be amazing. It would save a
Yeah.
lot of time. Because I'm going to Ireland uh, next month in May,
Okay.
and that would honestly help with that flight. Because
Yeah.
it's not a long flight by any means, but still 7 hours in a plane is it's still 7 hours in a plane.
Oh, my longest flight, I think at the time it was the longest flight. I went from New York to Taiwan. It was like 16 hours.
Oh yeah, my Tanzania
I,
was 18 for us.
Ooh, wow. On
Yeah,
one plane, 18 hours?
yeah. So on our way home from Tanzania, well, we flew from Zanzibar to Tanzania, I think
Yep.
Arusha, and then Arusha we landed in somewhere in the UK. We had to sit in the plane for an hour, refuel, and then we had to go again. It was terrible. I got the extra
Sucks.
leg room, thank God, but like
Yeah.
the extra leg room really doesn't give you that much more.
No.
Anyways, we'll get back to trains.
Yeah. Sorry.
Um,
Trains. Yeah.
um, super cool. I think it's a great idea what you guys are doing. I didn't even remember what we were talking about before,
We
but
were just talking about how it's better to be able, you can be more productive on a train while you're
yes,
traveling versus on an
definitely.
airplane. And that airline travel, it meets a very important need, but they're trying really hard, but there's just some structural limitations to how comfortable you can be.
And for your rail, are you guys looking to go all across North America at some point? Like
I think that would be super
further?
cool.
I think that'd be
Yeah.
amazing. Like even coming in to even have multiple branches coming into Ontario, well, that might be tough. You wouldn't be able to do nationwide, I guess, but because
Overnight, the way to think about it is more about like, okay, how do you build a network of like between two pair cities that are roughly an overnight distance away?
yeah,
It's a bit of an open question how willing Americans are to, how long are they willing to stay on a train versus flying?
yeah,
We don't know. We have some theories. Our theory is probably between 8 to 12 hours. It's enough to get a full night's sleep, but not so long that you're like, spending my day on a train. I think the two things that are going to be a game changer for us is the first one is that it's our intention to have showers on the train. So I don't know about you, but oftentimes the first thing I do when I am done with a plane ride, especially a long plane ride, I'm like, I got to shower this plane
yeah,
off of it.
definitely.
Um, so we think that's going to be a big benefit. So I've read some things that people say that people will do up to 14 hours on a train, like as an alternative to flying or driving.
Yeah,
I'm less confident to say that that's a lot of people. I'm sure there are people, but like I don't know if I
yeah.
would even do that. I mean, it depends, I guess.
I mean, the
But where
nice
it
thing
gets
about
interesting,
it is though that you're going to be traveling at night, so you're going to get a nice 8 hours sleep. And if
yeah,
it's 14 hours, you wake up, you spend the next 6 hours, doing
yeah,
some work, and then by that time, get off the train, it'll be kind of mid-afternoon, evening,
Yep.
and you get back to your day.
Now, I think what the game changer here is that we plan on offering an auto ferry service where people can bring their cars with them. Now, that's
cool.
that's gonna matter a lot in the U.S. because we're a super car-centric culture,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of destinations that get unlocked when you consider that. So, like for example, on our route, you could take, let's say you want to go to Napa, but the flights to Napa are really expensive. You're like, I don't know if I want to do that. You take our service from, Southern California. You wake up in the morning in San Jose. You could drive to the wineries before they open. Like, oh, that's a much easier thing because right now you have to fly up there and then you have to rent a car because you have to get around Napa and have a car.
yeah,
And I think that the rise in self-driving cars is totally gonna like link into this perfectly. Where like, oh, maybe I don't even need to bring my car, but we're early to say in what's going to happen there and what
yeah,
people want to prefer. People really love their cars.
definitely. No, and even like big car guys that are going to car shows, so to say, instead of trailering a car
That's
across
exactly right.
from state to
That was one of
state, they're
that
just
was
going to
one of
bring
the
it on the
first group,
train.
one of the first groups of people to be like, oh wait, I'm an auto car guy. They found us and they were like, I would use this 100%. Okay,
Definitely.
great.
Yeah, no, that would be huge for the car show scene because a lot of people, and you're not driving the car, you're not trailering the car, spending so much money on fuel. You're putting it in a box
Yep.
where it's confined space. No one's gonna touch it or scratch it.
Yep.
No, that's a great idea. I
Yeah.
like that. Um, this one's a tough question, but who was your biggest role model in your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, uh, I don't know that I have a role model. There's people I admire, like what they've accomplished. Um, and I guess it would be really weird if I was like, yeah, I like Vanderbilt because, like, dude, that guy died 100 years ago, over 150 years ago almost, right? So I am reading a biography about him, but business back then was totally different than today. Um, I will say that I'm very inspired by what Elon Musk is able to accomplish with his entrepreneurial pursuits. Right?
Definitely.
He's revolutionized 3 industries. Most people only do one.
Yeah,
I'm very, and part of the strategy that he did with Tesla is something that we've taken note of. Like, oh, how do you, the problem he had, right? How do you get people in the mid 2000s after the dramatic failure of the EV1, which was a General electric vehicle?
yeah,
How do you get them to go, no, 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 this time it's different, except we're a company you've never heard of, buy our electric cars? Like, that's a really tough problem. And obviously, Tesla is a well-known company today.
yeah,
They did it. Um, and I think I just really admire what he was able to accomplish.
definitely. No, he's one
I
of
don't know
the.
that I would model my personal life on how he lives his, but that's okay. You don't have to do that. I very much admire what he's done with his life and I mean, like him or hate him, the man clearly is operating at a level where he thinks the most important thing in the world is to make humanity an interplanetary species, and he's prioritized that above everything else.
Yeah, and
And
no one else is doing what he's doing, so
yeah,
he's I mean, he's doing something that he loves, obviously, and it's making an impact on the world, and we'll see if it's positive or negative. But his journey in entrepreneurship is unreal. Like
yeah,
he's had massive success in what he's done, and I think a lot of people should look up to him for what he's done because
yeah.
everything he's done is he's done it the right time. He's done it perfectly and executed it exactly. So he's super super smart guy.
Yeah,
But
I think watching what he's accomplished has inspired me to dream bigger. That's probably the best way to put it.
definitely, yeah. Don't dream too small. Like look what he's done. Just open your mind up a little bit and put some effort into it, and you never know what you can accomplish.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Are there any companies in the United States that are kind of have similar ideas to you guys doing night
I just
trains?
learned of one recently. It was in the news on trains.com. I have no idea anything beyond what's in that article. It doesn't sound like have any sort of preliminary track access or agreements yet.
Hmm.
But that's the only one. I mean, there's Brightline, obviously, so they have a slightly different model and a different market they're going after. They're going after call it sub 300 miles, and they're trying to build high speed rail. Oh, that's not true. They're trying to build faster speed rail. So they have their Orlando to Miami route, which has proven to be quite popular. And they're actually building a route near us from Rancho Cucamonga to Las Vegas. Okay. And I'm really, they paved the way for proving that there's demand for privately owned passenger rail. So I'm really impressed with what they've done, and I hope they continue to be successful.
That kind of helps. That helps you guys kind of step your way into the industry as well. You're talking about them building rails. Is that something you guys are going to be doing, or are you using existing rails?
We're going to be using existing rails. So part of our model is, hey, there's slack in the system. Let's utilize that slack in a way where it's really expensive to build in America. Like, I totally admire what Brightline has figured out how to do. Like, wow, you solved a really hard problem. But I am not Wes Eden, and I don't have $1 billion in net worth to my name at this point in time.
Yeah.
So if I were to come and tell people, hey, I want to do this, I wouldn't be too much different than a lot of these other projects that pop up where guys are super enthusiastic, but they don't have the means, right? A lot of those projects ultimately end up getting acquired. Like, I believe that's the story behind Brightline West, is that they acquired the previous company that had started trying to build the line. And recognizing that my strength wasn't that I yet have I don't have tons of capital connection. Like, this was when I've met quite a few people now, but back then it was like, oh, I don't know anybody. So like, keep it simple, stupid, right? California high-speed rails spending billions of dollars, and unfortunately the cost overruns have been pretty dramatic, and I don't think that's something that I want to bite off as my first rail experience. I don't think it would go well. So I'm operating in an area where I can simplify things as much as possible.
No, that's perfect. That makes total sense. And you explained everything. I can't even add to that.
No, it's fine.
So I saw that you guys partnered with BMW Designworks.
That's right.
Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Kind of what the passengers can expect from the collaboration in terms of experience and design.
So we BMW's Designworks, the design studio that is part of the BMW group of companies, they approached us about doing some train designs, and we had a couple different firms kind of doing some stuff, and we were just really impressed with what the team put together. I don't know if you've seen the renderings that we released kind of in January.
I've seen, the one on your website where it's
so that's
background.
One of them.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and actually we're in the process of redesigning our website to kind of illustrate and show more of what we actually have, because it was pretty basic. If it looks like it was put together at 2 a.m. by a startup founder who was like, I need something that shows that we're a real company, it's because it was. And we're going through a kind of brand refresh to make it look a little bit better. That'll show off a lot more. I've temporarily added like a rooms and accommodations page, which will probably, by the time this goes live, be replaced with the new website that shows some of the pictures. But we released a couple publications picked up kind of the different types of offerings that we're going to have and what it looks like. And in part of the strategy here was like, hey, how do you get people to get on the train? And like, well, let's make it sexy. Like, right? Like, you don't want to just be like, oh, this feels like an airplane in a train. Like, in terms of the environment, it's like with an airplane or with a train, you have so many more degrees of freedom that you can exercise in your design philosophy. And my insight, or my view, insight's a strong word. My view is that the value here is that you get your time back and you get your energy back. These are the two most scarce resources that everybody has. Anybody who's ever gotten older knows that both of those things get harder and harder to have more of for most people. So with this, you get the equivalent of what in sci-fi they would call hypersleep, right? In our case, there's nothing hyper about it, it's just sleep. So it's about designing the customer experience so you can not only just get on the train and like, well, I technically slept. No. I want you to have a great night's sleep, like you would if you stayed at a luxury hotel, or you're like, wow, why am I so restful? And so we kind of approached them with that problem set, and we said, look, you can make this look like just another transportation, plastic or whatever. Or let's take some design principles that are like, wow, why do I feel so comfortable? And BMW's been pretty good with their interiors of like, hey, like this looks like kind of place that I want to be, because I want someone to see the pictures and be like, ooh, I want to take that in order for wherever. Whereas, if you just do, we had done some like AI interiors, but they just looked so over the top fake or just not very good.
Yeah.
And you're like, this was a year ago. AI has gotten so much better since then. So, we were pretty thorough. They ran us through their design process, and we just said, look, this is what we're going for. This is what we want it to look like. And we're very pleased with what they gave us. And the feedback has been, people are like, oh, I want to go on that. And it's like, okay, that was the objective. Mission accomplished.
That's awesome. Can you speak a little bit more in depth on what they added to make that at-home experience in the train?
I don't know that I can say what we added, but I basically gave them words and pictures of other nice hotels, and I said, turn this into a train. And then they gave us a bunch of different options, and we went through a whole process. And so it's not like I just gave them the like, hey, make these renderings that I already have nicer. No, I said like, hey, here's the idea, here's the theme. Their North Star was, I told them, give us a design that looks in such a way where after being on our train overnight and stepping off, people feel optimistic about the future of the United States.
Wow. If you told me that, I think I could design something pretty cool too. But maybe not as good as BMW.
Well, I mean, and I don't have the designs because I can talk, okay. But I don't know how to turn that. Like, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
But I don't know how do you do that?
And they just pulled it all together.
And they pulled it all together. They gave us a bunch of different options. We went through it, and we realized let's lean into, I'm by Disney, so I'm really lucky. Disneyland is 20 minutes away from me. Mm-hmm. And they did something super clever in their design principles where they somehow can pay tribute and homage to their past while also building wonderful brand new experiences. So they have their whole Hidden Mickeys thing. They have all these things that are for the deep fans, mm-hmm. but also if you're just a casual fan, you don't see any of that. You don't walk in and be like, oh, well, this is clearly not built for me. This is built for the average person. So we knew that we wanted to incorporate some of that in what we're doing because a lot of people love trains. So how can we give them in our design principles subtle nods of hey, this is for you. But someone who's my sister, and she's just I just want to have a nice train or whatever. She's never going to notice the small little details. But somebody else might notice oh, I noticed you called your lounge car the Lark Bar. And that would, of course, be paying homage to the Lark, which was the last time an overnight passenger sleeper train, or it was one of the overnight sleeper trains that ran on the same route, years ago. Just as a small example. I don't know if we're going to do that, but that kind of thinking needs to go into it.
That's awesome. I think I listened to one of your podcasts that you said you're going to have lights that are going to be a little dimmer, and they're going to be kind of a little bit more red light to help with the mood of obviously trying to fall asleep.
It's very much my intention to incorporate the latest in circadian science and circadian design of mm-hmm. okay, how can we think about what relaxes people at night? I don't know if you ever had this experience, but there's some places you walk into and you're like, well, why am I so relaxed all of a sudden?
Yeah.
My uncle did this with his apartment. I remember he's probably gonna watch this and just make fun of me later. I remember the first time I walked in. He lives in New York City, very loud, whatever. And I walked in and it was I just felt stress immediately melt off my shoulders. And I looked at him and I said, Carl, how did you do that? And he goes, it's the design. It's design that you walk in and you just feel the stress of the city just melt off. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do this, at home, right? We've been in hotels, whatever.
Yeah.
And so how can we create that type of experience on the train? And the lighting is a great example. You know what really, really sucks? Bright fluorescent lights. So when I took my night train in Thailand, all we had were these little curtains that you would close, and they didn't close all the way, and they had these really bright fluorescent lights that just beamed. And so you're like, you're laying there like trying to sleep, but then you have this bright light that's not really being I didn't have an eye mask, but it's not being sufficiently. And it's like, well, I understand why they would have done it that way for a variety of reasons. But if you get the choice from a design like, hey, we're starting from scratch, and you can be like, we're not going to do this. Let's not do it. Let's not do it because it's the way it's done. Let's do it because it's the best way to do it. So that's definitely an example of where I'm going to be very sensitive. There's obvious things like soundproofing, making sure the train's not too loud, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But those are some of the more obvious things, at least to me. But maybe not your listeners. I don't know.
No, I think that definitely makes total sense. You're obviously going to want people to feel comfortable, kind of give them the at-home feeling, and make the experience enjoyable as well. And I think BMW is giving you a great option with that, with the interior designs. Have you dropped any? Have you released them yet? Or are you holding off?
Yeah, they're out there. So if you go on our website, they're there.
Okay,
I'll just say that.
I'll have to take a look again.
Yeah, I just put it on this morning, so that's not a you thing. Otherwise, they were mostly either in our media kit or a couple different different publications posted the photos.
Okay. So you're speaking about obviously the loudness of the train and keeping the sound out. What are you guys using as a power plant for these trains?
What's the energy source?
Yeah.
I think this is the question.
Yeah.
To start with, it's going to be diesel electric, right? That's the industry standard for how it works. We are looking at, right, there's new technology on the cutting edge of rail. So what's not going to work for us is pure electric. If you're trying to go 500 miles, those lines just aren't electrified, so it's not really an option for us.
Yeah.
So it'll be diesel electric to start with. That's what I'll say. We've talked to some people about what the future of hydrogen is. That might be an interesting direction.
I was going to ask you about hydrogen.
Yeah. So actually, the first hydrogen train in the United States just took delivery in San Bernardino, which isn't too far from where I live. Mm-hmm. Stadler built it, the Stadler Flirt, and it seems to be very cool, but it's it's a new technology. It's not totally proven. It's much more expensive to get up and running. So while it's on the roadmap of like we're looking at it to start, again, keep it simple. Let's not add complexity where none is needed. We can get a pretty commodity, diesel locomotive and run operations just as well. If there's an opportunity to build something that's quieter and more environmentally friendly, you're not going to hear me say no if it makes sense from a business perspective.
Yeah.
I think one of the downsides to the hydrogen or the diesel electrics is sometimes the engines can be kind of loud when they're going by. So, or when they're, I don't call it idling, but sitting in the station. So
definitely, but that's just engines in general. Obviously, if you go electric, I think hydrogen's still going to be. It's still good. They're probably still decently loud, I'd assume, right? It's still an engine moving.
It depends on the what type of hydrogen engine you use. So if you use like a fuel cell, basically you're going to run the hydrogen through the membrane, and that's how you get the electricity and charges the battery, which then drives the engine. Okay. So I would imagine they're much quieter.
And that should be.
I would say versus if you have like a combustion hydrogen engine, which I don't think anyone seriously pursuing that for trains, where you're igniting the hydrogen, that would expect that to be much louder. But I honestly don't know what the noise profile of existing hydrogen locomotives is today.
Something to look into the future for. Is that something that's going to venture into automotive as well, or do you think they're going to stick with more electric instead of kind of venturing into the hydrogen side of things?
Probably electric. Hydrogen has there's some trade-offs to using hydrogen as a fuel. They just don't. Look, if we find a way to make hydrogen more energy efficient, but there's concerns around sourcing hydrogen and then distributing in the network. So it's like, okay, if you're going to build the hydrogen refueling infrastructure, you basically are starting over from zero.
That's
Whereas,
fair point there.
yeah, so and you run into the chicken and egg problem of like, well, where are we going to refill stuff? Now, the advantage you have with trains is you run a line. You go, where do we put it? Well, we put one refueling station at one end of the line, one at another. You only have to do it 2 places, and you can build incrementally. So it's less of a big deal there. And that's even if there's the second piece of that of like, where do you get the hydrogen, right? So do you do a hydrogen production facility? How are you transporting it around? And these are all questions that a bunch of people who are in hydrogen energy are trying to answer, and I am not, so I am not.
Well, I thought you'd have some insights of it because you know the trains and you're looking into kind of what's the best for your company. So I thought I'd give you that question but you had a great answer.
It's a fair question because you're totally right. Like we are looking into it, and then just acknowledging that those are the problems that one, what's the raw energy, what's the raw cost compared to an equivalent amount of energy output versus diesel. It's it depends on where you're getting it, where you're sourcing it, where it's produced. Okay, how do you get it from where it's produced to where you need it? Like these are all the problems that are facing hydrogen today, and they're not problems that can't be overcome. People are working on them, and we may find a solution as we develop our service that works for us, or maybe we don't. I don't know. It's just there's a rank stack of like problems I need to solve, and I go, well, that's a problem I have to solve in a year from now. So if I work on it now anymore, it takes away from solving the problems that I need to solve this week.
Definitely.
So it's a delicate balance between solving the problems today and solving the problems of tomorrow.
Definitely. That's definitely not a today problem. It's definitely a future to come. But what are those challenges that you're running into today and kind of this week? What are some of the challenges with upbringing the company and getting everything moving?
Yeah, challenges might not be the right way to put it because, I mean, if there wasn't challenges, everybody would do this, right?
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing right now is just, really repeating the message, just getting the word out there. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're building this train. We're doing it. Once we talk to like the right people, they tend to be like, oh, this is a good idea. But just getting to those right people, who do we need to talk to? It was part of why I'm doing a lot of this. Like, I hope, should someone listen to this and be like, oh, I know how I can help or whatever. Because, I mean, we wouldn't be here. We've had so many people reach out and just offer to help us with expecting nothing in return. We wouldn't be where we are today if those kind of people who are just like, hey, you clearly want to make the world a better place and like passenger rail in America, like let me help you however I can. And it's been really cool to see how many people we've inspired by just being like, hey, shit sucks. It doesn't have to suck. Let's make it not suck.
That's awesome. No, I love how people are taking initiative and helping out something that could really revolutionize the way that the transportation in America. Because we don't see anything like this, and it could make a huge difference to a lot of people that are traveling medium trips all the time.
Think about all the people who go and visit. I often would have a joke. It's like you have the stereotype of the hyper efficient German who's like, we are going to go to San Francisco and then the next day to Disneyland. It's like, no, you're not doing that in a million years. Like that doesn't work with how the logistics actually work. Well, technically with our service, if we get all the way to Anaheim, you could do that. It would be a long day, but you could do it.
But no, that's awesome. It's a great idea. But so we're talking a little bit about the future. What are some of the goals for the company, the future goals? Where do you guys want to be in 6 to 12 months? Obviously, you want to launch that first line, hopefully coming up here soon. But what are some of the other big goals coming into the future?
Well, I think you hit it. I think if we had other big goals, any of my investors would be concerned that I'm not focused. No, it's about getting the first line up and running and proving the concept. And then once we've proved the concept, hey, this works, people like it, we have a model that we can replicate elsewhere. Then it's about expanding of like kind of building out the network of like, hey, this worked here. How do we make it work here? How do we make it work here?
And just keep getting some more rails up and running.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then not only that, because this would be foolish not to do, but how can we improve the experience we already have? Like, is there some technology we can incorporate? There's a lot of cool things you can do that sound like a crazy example is that, like I don't know if we're going to do this. It's on the roadmap of interesting ideas. I don't know what it's going to cost yet. But there's this technology that allows you to create what the engineer told me is called an audio bubble around you. So you can embed speakers into the seat, and the speakers can play. You can pair it to like your Bluetooth, your phone, or whatever, or a movie if you have an iPad or whatever. Yeah. And you can listen to stuff there, and you don't have to put on headphones. It's open air, so you're just like sitting in the seat, and you can hear it, but the person next to you can't.
That's pretty crazy.
So you don't have to wear headphones. And then you go, well, what gets even more interesting, because we know where people are sitting, we can give them personalized announcements about the train, and we don't have to give them announcements that aren't relevant to them. So what I mean by this is we have multiple stops. We can just say, hey, we're approaching your stop. But not everybody in the train has to hear it.
That is pretty cool.
And then we can do other cool things with some of the AI that's coming. It's like, hey, last time you took the train, you ordered,
this
a
food.
Thomas's Old Fashioned or whatever, right? Would you like another one, right? Not in an obnoxious way, because I hate that obnoxious shit. But you're like, oh, what was that thing I had last time? It was really good. This is what you had last time. Do you want it? Yeah. Okay, cool, right? It's balancing the delicate line between like relevancy versus like pushing the sale.
And like have that next level service almost as well.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's really cool.
And we can do that. That's totally within like the capabilities with technology constraints today.
So with the design, you guys are having kind of beds that you can, or I guess I want to call it rooms with beds that you can reserve, and then you can have seats as well that you can reserve? Or do you reserve a room and then you have a seat as well?
No. So it's going to be more like, think of it like you might reserve a room in a hotel. So you'll reserve your room, and then we'll just be like an open lounge car where people can come and sit and hang out if they want.
I got it.
Yeah, we don't plan on going to market with like a coach seat where you can just sit there upright. That's no improvement over taking a red eye today. Like, yeah, like if you want to do that, you can already do that. Like it's not I can walk around more. Maybe people will value that. I don't know, but we're not going to go to market with that. That's for sure.
Definitely. No, that's awesome. Are you a podcast listener? Do you ever listen to Gary Brecka? Have you heard of him?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
So he had someone.
The health guy.
He's the health guy. He had someone on his podcast. I have to tell you this because it's really cool. But he had someone on his podcast a couple weeks ago, and they have a product called Happy, HAPBEE, and basically it's a ring that you kind of like a necklace that you wear, and it puts off basically vibes, not vibes. You'll have to watch it. It's really cool, but basically you can do like a caffeine vibe that'll get you up and moving. You can do a melatonin vibe that'll get you kind of tired, and that'll be perfect for the train. You put it on. It doesn't give you like radiation vibes. You'll have to look into it. It's really cool, but say you wanted your customers to sleep really well, you could put this on them. You give them the melatonin vibe, and basically it goes consciously into their subconscious, not into their subconscious mind. But if you watch it, it'll make total sense. I can't explain it. I'm not a human biologist or anything, but it's really cool because it would help your customers get in the mood of bringing down their energy levels and actually falling to sleep comfortably.
Yeah,
I just thought I'd bring that up, but look into it. Yeah. It's really cool. It's a really good podcast.
Okay, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, I just had to bring that up because I just listened to that the other day and I was like, oh, that would be a great way to fall asleep on even an airplane. He said so Gary has used it, and he said he used it on the airplane and said he was out for the full flight. I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. That'd be perfect for a train. Get comfortable, get tired, and go to sleep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's very interesting. If you could take one dream journey on your hotel train, where would it be? It will go all around the world. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be just in the States.
Like point to point, or what do you mean? Like from here to there? Like, can I be like, I want to take a train to Hawaii or something silly like that?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Like you could go across the world with your train, but we'll do like your biggest, your furthest, your most exciting travel that you ever wanted to do, and then we'll stay one with where your routes are actually where your tracks are actually gonna route.
This is totally pie in the sky, and actually it is an April Fool's joke. I put it where Dreamstar is launching Dreamstar Lunar, a night train to the moon, or something like why don't just travel by moonlight, travel to the moon, or some stupid thing like that. But in terms of like on Earth, I don't know. I think this is, to be clear, there's no way you can take a train to Hawaii, but I think it'd be cool to take a train to like to Antarctica. I've always wanted to go see Antarctica. It seems really cool.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah. In terms of like what's realistic is like, I would love to have a situation where we can have our night trains go to ski resorts.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So like, and it's possible. We've looked into it. But I think that like, I don't want to say where, but we've looked at some resorts of like, oh, it's close enough where it would make sense where like, because the problem with ski trips is like you get there, a lot of times you need a car because most of the towns, cities, resorts, you can't just get there and like be there. You got to drive around to do whatever. So I think that would probably be like, it'd be dope to take like an overnight, like in terms of like you could ostensibly do it today, like a night train from Southern California to Tahoe or something, or like Southern California to Taos. I don't know if you could even do that, but you can bring your car and then you can drive to all the resorts. That's kind of where the benefit would be in my view.
That'd be cool. Or even like start at one, go skiing all day at that resort, hop on the train, go to the next resort. That's give or take 8 hours away. Go ski all day, go to the next one. That would be super cool. I think that's a great idea.
Amtrak has the winter train right now that goes from Denver to Winter Park, and it's super popular. But it's only like, I think it takes an hour and a half or 2 hours to get there or something like that. So it's a daytime trip. But okay. I would love to do an overnight trip somewhere.
That would be cool. You're a big skier or snowboarder, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I do like to. I snowboard quite a bit.
That's awesome.
Or as much as I can is what I should say.
That's awesome. No,
I used to snowboard quite a bit.
Me too. But times change. What could I say?
Yeah.
If you could go back to when you started Dreamstar, what advice would you give yourself?
I feel like I went in pretty open-eyed of like, hey, this is going to be really tough. I might say focus on conserving cash. I mean, I do that, but like, I don't know. I don't know what I would need to sit and think about it to give like a real meaningful answer.
Yeah. That's okay.
Maybe I would say trust the people who. What? No, because I did. I'm trying to think of all these things that are advice, but they're just things that I did anyway. That like I would just be telling myself, you did the right things.
Well, you have no issues then. You did everything correct. Everything's working out great so far, and you're going to launch before the Olympics. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. I don't know that I'm far enough. I don't have enough distance from the problems of the past to understand what was a mistake and what was just the stumbling around trying to find the right path. That might be the way to. You know what? Here's the advice I would actually give is have better systems in place for communications. Because when we started, we did not. So when we went viral, my email inbox was disgusting for like 3 months. So that's what I would say. I would say be much better about having systems set up before you need them. Particularly around communications, because now I feel like most of my job is responding to email. And I'm always trying to improve it and figure out how to get it better. But like, we didn't even have a CRM. So like, we would get all these people who are interested and drop us their email. We don't know anything about them. We don't know how to categorize or make it useful. So I think that's what that would be the advice. I'd say set up a really good system for managing communications as early as possible, before you think you need it. Because you can always improve it, but if you don't have it, you don't have anything to improve.
No, that's great advice. That's huge, because that's what's gonna bring you the income to make this work. Not bring you the income to make it work, but they're the people that are gonna actually use the trains and what they're gonna make the train go round. So
yeah,
that's
exactly.
That's one of the biggest things. And you're doing reservations at the moment. Is that what you guys are doing for now?
We do have we do right now. We're taking people's emails, so they can go on the website. There's a little form, and then essentially, if you opt in, we'll include you on the updates list. So we have a blog, like a newsletter. We have a newsletter that we release every month or so. I hate spam, so I'm very infrequent. But the idea is to keep people who have a vested interest and like, hey, I want to take this. I want to know when it starts. Up that we can keep them updated when things launch. And we'll very much, before we launch, do like a pre-launch sale type deal of like, hey, let's sell some tickets, see what happens.
That's pretty cool. Well, I'm super excited to hear about the future of Dreamstar. I really hope, I know you guys are going to get it out before the Olympics, and that's awesome. That's super exciting. That's going to bring a lot of eyes and ears to the trains, especially with people coming from all over the world. I appreciate you taking your time to come talk with me today. I think we had a great chat. And you have some great insights on an industry we usually don't touch on, and I hope the listeners like the information. And I think we'll have to have you on again once you get the train up and running, because you're going to have so many new experiences to talk about, and I'm super excited.
I'll probably have a better answer to the question for what advice I'd give myself. That's for sure.
I'll be sure to ask you that one.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. You got my info, so anytime you have any questions, don't be shy. It might take a couple days to respond, as you've learned, but I try to get around to everything eventually.
All good. Well, thanks so much for coming on.